Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Golf Insider webcast and podcast. I'm Jeff Bergerson. You can find me on daily fantasy sites under JT Bergerson, joined as always by my partner, Zach Turcotte. His screen name is Mysteriously. We are with fantasygolfinsider.com, your number one resource for everything fantasy golf. And we recommend you go check us out if you haven't already. Become a premium member and look up all our tools and become a real successful and profitable fantasy golf player. This broadcast is also available on iTunes. If you want to check that out there, feel free to. Be sure to give us a good review. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would help us a lot as well. As for last week, Zachary, I hope everyone enjoyed the British Open. The Farmers Insurance Open.
The US Open / British Open, as Snedeker said.
Yeah.
It's a US Open course with British Open weather is what we described it, which is perfect.
That was interesting.
Interesting is one way of putting it.
What were your takeaways from last week?
Oh, wow. Definitely bankroll management. I think that was, actually a lot of people that I talked to said they ended up breaking, they were surprised that they ended up breaking even. So that was a good takeaway. The other takeaway is, once again, I wrote my column last week on letting people know I always kind of procrastinate putting my column out, but with good reason. You're always looking to gather information. One of the big themes that I discussed was waiting until Wednesday to actually put all your lineups in. And so when we get that news on Jason Day where, all of a sudden Wednesday morning it comes out he's skipping the Pro-Am, he's sick, well, then you haven't put together 50, 60 lineups that have Jason Day. Now you got to go back, juggle everything out, because honestly, ask how many people out there, I'm sure there was a ton of people who put together all their lineups on Monday and Tuesday after prices came out, and then they get the news on Day, and just for whatever reason, it's just easier just to leave your lineups alone.
Yeah, that's true.
So they don't end up making the changes that they should have made. They end up overweight on Day. I don't know if being sick necessarily affected him a lot. I mean, he came out, he was 3 under early on. I think both of us were kicking ourselves for not keeping him on. I think you went all the way to 0.
Well, I sent out the email on Wednesday night to everybody saying get rid of him in your cash games. It's just too big of a risk, and really limit your exposure in your GPPs. I went down to 0 in both.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a terrible thing to leave him on a couple of GPP lineups just in case, because it is Jason Day. But I think from what I've heard from our members is pretty much everyone eliminated him from most of their rosters.
Yeah, so I had him on a few. But again, that just gets back to why you want to wait until Wednesday. Just take in as much information as you possibly can, because you just never know with golf what is going to pop up at the absolute last second. You want to give yourself maximum flexibility. You don't want to have to go back, try to change all of your lineups back, recount who's in which lineups and how you're weighted on everything. So,
but do reserve your
all the
because
spots.
They fill up, because DK can't quite seem to get the number right for the contest size yet.
No. So, I've already lined up for this week. They dropped down the $3 from $100,000 prize
to $50,000
a little
for
bit,
first place. Yep.
A little bit disappointing. They didn't have an overlay last week. It was about 7,000 short, I think, of being filled. But you jump from 70,000 to 170,000. You're going to have a little bit of lag, just information getting back to people that we brought back the $100,000 first prize. So it's at 50 this week. I'll probably put in 60 to 70 lineups into the $3. I've already got all those slots essentially reserved even before prices are out for everybody. So get everything kind of in position. Put your lineups in for your cash games as far as a dummy lineup is concerned. Something that makes a little bit of sense and something that's going to be easy for you to change after you get some time to do a little bit of research. But I think that was the biggest takeaway that I had, was that, again, just be patient. Split the process up of choosing the games and choosing the lineups. So I think that's huge.
It was a very bizarre week, obviously. 7 of the top 11 priced guys missed the cut, which I've never seen before. No. So it was a complete bloodbath. But when you're looking at your lineups and seeing how many missed cuts you have, just know that everyone else was in the same boat. So 4 of 6 guys were cashing in cash games this week. So, keep it in context. Brant Snedeker showed a gutty effort.
Amazing.
On Sunday.
That might end up being the round of the year.
That was awesome.
There. Yeah, as I'm watching, I'm just thinking, I'm looking at the scores, +5, +6, +10, +12, +4, and there's one minus on the entire field. Not just -1, -3, and he was a guy who was on the line on Friday, just barely eked into making the cut.
Yep.
And then comes back and is able to pull it together. Shoots 2 under on Saturday and 3 under on Sunday. I mean, it's an amazing win. And as soon as he got to 6 and he got in the clubhouse, and I tweeted out, I think he's now the favorite. And of course, when it went to Monday, I thought, well, if the weather's a little bit better on Monday, well, he might not really be the favorite anymore. But fortunately, the winds were still just awful today. And
on Monday,
right out of the box, Jimmy Walker, screwed himself up and lost the stroke, and then it was tied. And then nobody was ever real competitive.
Scott Brown could not get off the course fast enough. He was just melting down.
Yeah, he was threatening the 90 mark, which I haven't seen that one in golf outside of like an amateur.
I've never seen so many plugged balls in the sand trap as with Scott Brown over the past 2 days.
I felt bad for him. I mean, the fact that he had to go back out today he goes into today with the leaders group. So he started the final day in the leaders group.
Oh yeah.
And these guys are hanging in there, and he's just embarrassed.
Kind of a nuisance to those guys.
Right. And they feel bad.
Right.
He feels like an idiot.
Right.
It was embarrassing to watch. So I'm sure he wasn't very happy to see his payday cut from potentially a little over $1 million to whatever it was, more than I made today.
Yeah. Well, you had Snedeker in your
Snedeker and Walker.
Spin. Yeah.
Both of those guys. So that really was what saved me and others, because it was looking terrible. And I mean, before Snedeker made his charge, I mean, it just wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking like a whole lot of money was going to be made. I was a little frustrated because I actually did have 2 Snedeker Choi lineups together, and both of those lineups were 6 of 6 through. Just could not possibly get the other guys to perform. One was actually Snedeker, Choi, and Walker, but couldn't get 3 other guys to perform. So
it wouldn't have taken much more for that lineup.
No.
Just a couple other. I saw another one had those 3 and like JB Holmes on there as well, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
But
so it was real close.
It was a bizarre week. I lost in cash. I broke even on GPPs.
Sounds about right.
So if you had a rough week, you're not alone. That's why we stress bankroll management. We're going to have these crazy, bizarre happenings every once in a while.
You just can't plan for weather like that on Sunday. I mean, if you have 6 guys who are competitive going into Sunday, I don't care if there's a hurricane out there on the course. You're just happy to get 6 guys through the cut and into contention on Sunday. After that, you just got to hope for the best. You know, but that's Thursday, Friday. We can try to plan around the weather. Sunday, you're just hoping your guys can hang in there. So, interesting week to say the least. But
we had a few people who let us know that they had real nice weeks last week. So shout outs go to Tom King, Jimbo Slice 4499 on Twitter, Steven Nemens, and Mark Mercado. Congrats, guys. Keep up the winning ways. And shout out to those guys.
Yep.
Did that put a wrap on St. Andrews and the British Open?
I hope so.
On to our shot of the week, which was nominated by Mike Stone this week. Although he didn't send me a picture of him taking a shot. Come on, Mike, you got to send that to us. And it was brought to you by Chesson Hadley.
Yeah.
And it was on the par 3 16th hole.
It was beautiful.
It's quite a production. I'll give you the shot tracker real quick. Shot 1, 218 yards to the green, 28 feet, 8 inches to the hole. Shot 2 was a putt 31 feet, 3 feet, 7 inches from the hole.
So it looks like a pretty standard hole right there. Nothing exciting, no water, no penalties, nothing.
Nope.
Right? Yeah.
Shot 3, putt was 8 feet, 6 inches from the hole. So now he's 4 feet, 7 inches
he still leaves
from the hole.
Still leaves a little bit of work, but you get out of here with a bogey. And
Shot 4 was a putt 8 feet, 9 inches.
Wow.
So now he's 3 feet, 9 inches from the hole. Right. I'm not making this up, folks. This actually happened. Shot 5 was a putt 6 feet, 10 inches.
Now it's just in his head.
God, I wish I could have this on video. Can I not have this somewhere on video? So he's 3 feet from the hole, and it took him shot 6 to get home, a 5 putt.
Wow.
Chesson.
Cheers.
That is fun. Anytime you get a 5 putt,
That is golden. Well, Brooks did that last year, didn't he?
Same tournament, right?
Yeah. It was on his last hole, like the second day before he goes into the clubhouse, and it just kind of...
Yeah, he was near the leaders.
And it derailed him.
Oh, yeah. He just
absolutely derailed him after that. So, yeah, we see that every once in a while, and guys lose their composure, and then that's it. It happens particularly with young guys.
I did kind of like, though, the putt by, was it Colton Ost? Where the wind just took it. That was crazy.
It hooked around and went backwards.
Like veered backwards. That was outstanding.
It was not a good day for him besides that, but that will be a putt that he will, I'm sure, always remember.
He just got done complaining to the tournament official. He's like, we got to stop this. Putts it.
Well, that was outrageous. Like, there was no... Just one more thing for that tournament. There was no reason.
Well, they just
you look at the weather forecast. You've got gale force winds coming, and you know you're not going to get them through.
Right.
Just push it to Monday. Just push it one more day. I mean, I get it. It's you want to get some of it on CBS or whatnot because you've got the big TV coverage that day. But it was fortunate that winds were still lousy today, because if they had not been,
if it was 70 and sunny today,
it would have ruined Snedeker's amazing round. So I just thought that was crazy. Either just push them through the gale winds and the falling trees and get the round done, or just push it back a day. I mean, there's no harm in just pushing it back today and letting them play. It was windy, but certainly the conditions wouldn't have been enough to stop them from getting through the round today. So I don't know. Thought that was a little weird.
Do you want to skip our wacky wagers?
Ooh, I know. I called out Feinberg. I wanted some Charger gear. It was just a great weekend for Mr. Feinberg. The Chargers they're staying in San Diego
for a year, right?
So he's the owner there, Spanos. He's trying to negotiate again, going for negotiations to build a new stadium in San Diego. So the Chargers may actually stay there for many years to come. And then he has. He had a really great start and then held on after that. We both ended up getting 4 through the cut. Patrick Rogers and Bill Haas both devastated me in that matchup, as well as a handful of cash games, which kind of surprised me and hurt. He managed to get a top 10 finish out of Hudson Swafford, so that certainly helped out. He had Jimmy Walker give him a top 10.
Yep.
Dustin Johnson looked like he was going to give him a top 10, and then he had a DJ weekend.
Right.
Kind of gave up when the weather went bad, so so that hurt him. And then Andrew Loop came through, was in real strong position after the first couple rounds, and then faded when the weather got bad, but still enough to put a whooping on me. So
congrats, Jeff Feinberg.
I can't wait to see him wearing that hoodie when when he's on the Pat Mayo show.
We'll send out that hoodie to you. This week, do we have a new contestant this week for Wacky Wagers?
We do. Glenn Chorney has stepped up. He hasn't sent me, this is going to put the pressure on you, Glenn, but you haven't sent me what it is that you want to wager yet, but you talked about it all last week. If you guys are not familiar with Glenn, he plays under the screen name Choron, and he was our first $100,000 winner last year at Doral. He managed to beat me out. We both had 5 of the 6 same guys in our lineup, and the difference for him was Lee Westwood on the last day, and that's why I hate Jamie Donaldson now. So Glenn is going to be out there. Glenn's a professional poker player, gambler. So
he won a WPT event.
He won a couple dollars in Monte Carlo, a couple bucks. Yeah, so from what I hear. So Glenn's going to step up this week. Okay. Glenn, you need to get us a picture of something to wager from, maybe something from your poker days. That'd be cool. We'll put up some swag, so get that off to us this week.
Anything else? Wacky Wagers, we got that covered. Should we move on to this week's event?
Yes.
All right.
One of our favorites of the year.
This is a fun event. The Wast Management Phoenix Open, held at TPC Scottsdale. It's a great event. The course is 7,266 yards. It's a par 71. One of the more exciting tournaments of the year. The 16th hole is in the stadium. It's pretty rowdy and raucous there. People are getting hammered all day, so that's awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a fun time, fun event, and what made it even funner last year is we absolutely cleaned up on it. So I think we swept the board. We heard from tons of members who killed
one of our best.
We had Brooks Koepka as our lock, and
having the winner helps.
Having the winner, but we also had Ryan Palmer and Matsuyama and everyone among our recommendations. So
yeah, it was great. It's good. I like winning. Winning's good.
Winning's good. Yeah. So we'll hope to do the same. We'll try and replicate last year. It is a full field event. For the first time in a few weeks, all of the rounds are going to be on the same course. Yay! Golf clap. So key stats of the week are going to be very similar to last week. Strokes gained, tee to green, par 4 and par 5 scoring.
Another bomber course.
It is a bomber course, so we'll take a look at driving distance. Every year, the bombers seem to end well.
Yeah.
Strokes gained, putting, and birdies are better percentage. We'll put a small weight on scrambling as well in our model. Be sure to check out our model done by Eric Dantoff. He works with us to put together that every week. You can change around the percentages however you like. It's fully interactive.
What I like about this course, it's nice. That's different than Torrey Pines. Torrey is one of those events where I think some of us learned a little bit the hard way. Again, this last week is where experience plays a huge role in how guys finish. So from year to year, the first timers can have a little bit of trouble. Even those up and comers that you really believe in, the Patrick Rogers type of players, where guys really struggle. This is a course here where people are able to kind of step in. It's not going to have the same super narrow fairways.
Nope.
It's not going to play like the U.S. Open style courses. So you don't have to worry quite as much stepping in here without any experience. If you look at some of the guys who came in last year for the first time, Koepka came in, he wins it. His first start right out of the bat. John Rahm, who's for whatever reason, I don't know why Rahm is not playing this week.
Rambo?
Yeah, I don't know why he's not here. He's an Arizona State guy, but he took fifth here last year. You had Justin Thomas, Tony Finau, Daniel
guys
Berger,
that hit it a
all
long
guys
way.
who hit it long and were making their debut. So I think that gives you a good idea of what you can go off of and what you can expect. And you don't have to necessarily fit a certain mold of experience for a type of course in order to be successful. So
as of our filming, because of the delay and whatever else reason that DraftKings has, they don't have the pricing out.
Why does golf have to suck like this?
I don't know why.
Frustrating.
Between the TV coverage and
the weather,
the scheduling of the event and everything, and the half hour. I know you like the half hour
Sunday
in between
break
coverage.
That makes
Don't
me
you love
so
that?
angry. I just want to break
It
something.
doesn't make sense.
I know it's coming, and it still makes me so mad.
Well, and then the basketball game goes long, so it's really only that's like 45 minutes, and then they show you what
the
just
Big
happened.
Ten, we're going to overtime. Woo!
So
and then
like
it's on tape delay.
Right, and then it's on tape delay. Yeah, they can't quite figure it out. So what we're doing this week, we've done it before, and it shows you how not so difficult it is to actually come up with a pricing.
We're going to play
model.
the prices right.
We'll play the prices right, and we'll
Get
put
my
our
numbers
own
out.
prices, which are usually pretty close, actually. So we'll go off of that, but just know that it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be pretty darn close.
But it's going to show you just how difficult it would be if a site were to actually want to put their prices out ahead of time. Because honestly, who cares if they're a little bit off? The players will adjust.
They're going to be a few $100s off.
And the players will adjust to the risk.
Right.
They'll adjust to the risk. If they see a guy's too cheap, then it's going to create an opportunity to either be jumping in on them or fading them because, people are going to be on them. So I don't understand why it needs to be perfectly precise.
So the top price guy this week you have as?
Bubba.
I agree. Yeah, Bubba Watson will be the top price guy.
I think 12 to 12.5.
I agree.
That's the range that they've kind of settled on as the top for the week. And I think this field is pretty loaded, so you're not necessarily going to have to skip over Bubba. And I think last year, this was still the time when they were playing around with prices. So I want to say Bubba was much higher than 12.5. I want to say it was like 14.
Yeah.
Something pretty exorbitant. So if you went up to 14 last year, they only gives you 7,200 to average for your other players, which makes it a lot tougher to roster him. So I think if he's 12, I think I'm comfortable having some exposure to Bubba. Bubba's turned up his game a lot. This is a course that he's done well at. He's been second here the last 2 years. So I think I will have some exposure to Bubba. It won't be just an auto fade for me.
Are you on Bubba Watson for cash?
That's going to be dependent on where the prices come out. Last week, I thought there was going to be more opportunities in the lower ranges. Again, last year at this time frame, Bubba was at the top at like 14. And then the bottom scrubs were at like 4. This year, they've tightened that up a lot. So the top guy's right around 12.5. And then the bottom, they've just sort of stopped. So 65, 64, 63, and then usually you hit a floor somewhere around 62 or 61 at the lowest. I think it only went down to 63 last week. So if they end up having a floor capped right there, It'll be interesting to see if I can find enough guys in the upper 6, low 7 range. Potentially, more than likely, I probably won't have them on cash this week.
I will not have them in cash, and I will have maybe no exposure to them in GPPs. I might just fade them outright. I like when you drop below to the next tier of guys. I think there's a lot of good quality in there that can win this tournament.
Sure.
A couple of those, I like Ryan Palmer a lot. I like Kevin Kisner a lot. I like even Kevin Na, Gary Woodland.
So you're really liking that range, like the guys you're talking about here. I've got Palmer at about 9.6.
Yep.
I think
upper
that's
9s. Yep.
Pretty fair considering what the field's looking like. I've got Kevin Na around 10, somewhere in the 10 to 10.3 range potentially.
So I figure I can get 3 of those guys on a roster, I think.
Ooh.
Depending on what the bottom number is, but I think I can get Gary Woodland down low 9s.
So if you think you could average 9,500 per guy and get 3 of those guys, so you'd be looking at 28.5. So you'd have 21.5 left. So you'd have a little over 7,000 per guy. It's doable. Yeah, certainly doable.
I think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any issue with that. What about Brandt Snedeker? The guy's been just on fire for the last few weeks.
I like Snedeker. He has a good tournament history here. I do worry about, of course, the coming off of victory. We've seen a negative correlation to performances coming off of victory, much less one on a Monday.
Sure.
As of right now, he's still in the field. He could withdraw. We don't know, but
he doesn't strike me as a type, though. I don't know. He's not the Patrick Reed, Graham DeLaet type to just blow.
Tell us about that.
I just thought it was outrageous, and I had to send a tweet out on this. But the guy giving Patrick Reed shit this week, none other than Graham the Iron Man DeLaet, the Cal Ripken of the PGA Tour out there. Yeah. He's the one giving.
He calls out Patrick.
He's giving Patrick Reed shit. Right. I'm just thinking, you haven't done as much in your whole career as he's done in the last 5 months or so. So just take it easy there a little bit and actually get through a whole season without 2 or 3 withdrawals before you're calling out other people. What are you looking for there from? Like you hear a lot of old timers. Just go out there and be a pro. Be a pro. Yeah, go out there and shoot plus 10 for the day. Then waste you're already near last place anyways. He's had a great fall. I mean, fantasy-wise, he's not going to really hurt. He probably didn't hurt fantasy players by taking that round off, because if he goes out the last day and shoots plus 10, he could very well lose points for fantasy players. So fantasy players really shouldn't be all that upset considering how the scores were posted. So there's going to be people who give him some shit about, you go out there and be a pro. But it shouldn't be you, Graham DeLaet.
That's what I'm saying.
It shouldn't be you. So Graham DeLaet, I'm giving you the finger this week, buddy, because you have absolutely no room to be giving anybody any lip.
Who else do you like, sir?
Let's collect ourselves a little bit here.
You're fired up.
Yeah, I am a little bit excited. At the top, I think a guy who makes for an interesting play, coming off of a miscut, a guy who disappointed everybody for the 2nd year in a row at Farmers, Hideki Matsuyama. Guy who's been in contention. He's been in the top 5 here the last 2 years. You say it every week. The guy's just a fantastic ball striker. He just can't always put together.
Well, it's usually the 2nd round that usually kills him. He starts out so good, and the same thing happened
crazy.
last week.
Yeah, he just takes off, and you're thinking, okay, he's gonna he's not just gonna compete, he's gonna contend right here. He's not gonna just make the cut by a little bit. And then day 2 rolls around, he loses a stroke, loses another, and then that cut line starts to sneak up on him, and then the pressure really comes on. And I think people are going to be a little bit disappointed. So I don't think they're going to be so easy to jump back on board. So I probably will have a little bit of him. I think a guy you have to talk about a little bit. Another guy who was very popular every week, but who missed the cut, Ricky Fowler. We speculated. We said, I recommended to kind of keep any exposure that you had to an absolute minimum. Yeah. And there was actually a pretty good fight on Twitter between a couple different tout sites on just this discussion, where they said, well, you know what, he's going to be a little bit tired coming back. He just had the win, and somebody was arguing. You can't argue that one event is going to influence another, which is fine, But at the same time, being tired, being exhausted, flying halfway across the world.
He probably did a lot of interviews.
Yeah. I don't think you need to run a study and show correlation in terms of being exhausted and playing well.
Right.
So, yeah, staying away there. And this has been a tournament he's had some struggles with in the last few years. So typically, a guy like Fowler, he's in that 20% range. Is he still going to stay up that high after blowing the cut and struggling here at this tournament? Is he now in the range where he's a decent contrarian play for GPP?
He could be, but he's still going to be expensive. He's still going to be, 11.6, somewhere around that area. So
he'll be up there.
I like dropping down a level this week.
Yeah,
personally, so I won't be on Ricky Fowler.
I think a guy that I'm interested in is going to be Kevin Kisner this week.
I like Kevin Kisner a lot.
All season, I think we're probably going to say that. But what's great is he didn't really start his surge last year until the second half of the season. So the first half, you look at last year, pretty bad. A lot of missed cuts, a lot of low finishes. This was one of them. He made the cut here back in 2012. So he did pretty well here, and then he missed the cut here last year. In this group of guys, I would have a hard time because they usually don't like to put too many guys at 10 or above. I'm thinking he's borderline 10. Maybe if you get him at like 9-8 or something, I think that's a great price for a guy like Kisner this week, especially because he's played well on just about every style of course that's been out there. So I think he could make for a real sneaky GPP play for the week.
Dropping down to the next level, who do you have highlighted? Who are you targeting in that like high $7s to $8,000 range?
High 7s to 8. Well, I think the guy who we loved last week, and we were texting back and forth about this over the weekend, just kind of pulling our hair out a little bit. Why are we not starting Smiley Kaufman just across the board?
Right.
The guy's got a very complete game at a young age. He was 7,300 last week. And I think I had him in 2 or 3 of my cash games out of the 4 that I ended up going with. But it just wasn't enough. I needed more Smiley.
I think that every week.
He's so steady, and at 7,300, what a great price for him. And he doesn't have any tournament history here. He's gonna get a raise.
Yep, he'll get a raise.
I think about 8,000.
That's what I have. Yep, about 8,000.
And I think he hits the ball a mile and he can putt. That's going to be dangerous almost every place that he goes.
He's consistent. He's good for cash games, but he's got a lot of upside for GPPs. He's one of those few guys who are good for both.
Yeah.
You can just lock and load. So I like him as well.
And then kind of moving back up a little bit, there's a guy you were talking to me about here a little earlier, a guy who was really kind of bad. I would say he badly underperformed last season, but he looks like he might be getting back to the 2014 version of himself.
Okay, and that is
Gary Woodland.
All right, Gary Woodland. Yeah, I mentioned him. I think if it weren't for him being derailed by the wind, he would have had a top 5 at Farmers.
He was right there.
He's been trending upward. He's obviously a physical specimen. He has the talent to do it. Last year was just an off year for Gary.
Yeah.
He has a good tournament history before last year. So I'm very high on Gary Woodland, and I kind of like that he did drop back in the standings at the Farmers last week for that reason, because I think we're going to get in.
It'll take some eyes off of him when the rubes out there go to look at the DraftKings pricing and they see where he finished. They'll say, oh, that's interesting, but maybe he's still a little bit too expensive. He didn't get that great finish that's going to help people.
And
out.
Your prediction on price was 8,600, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And I say he'll be 9,200.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. So we have a little bit of disparity there, but not too much. And then another guy we should touch on, the guy who won last week, Mr. Duffner. I think I'm not going to call him skinny. He's not skinny.
Skinny Duff?
I'm going to call him mid-range.
Not so
He
fat
looks like
Duff?
mid-range Duffner. I mean, if he went down to skinny last year, he's got a little belly on him.
Yeah, he does.
He's kind of back into that middle range again this year. Comfortable.
So middle Duff. What do you think of middle Duff?
Middle Duff, I like him this week, and I like him because people are going to look at that tournament history from last year. They're going to see that miscut. They're going to see the miscut from a couple years before that. And they're going to say, whoa, I am out. I don't want anything to do with this guy. But when he's been on here, he's had the 2 times before that, he's been in the top 10. Last year, you got to blow that one completely aside. Don't even look at what he did here. Last year, he was going through the worst.
His wife was shacking up with Tiger.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to play well?
Yeah, shacking is one way of putting it, right? So he had other things on his mind, right? And so you can just blow that one off completely. I think I think he's going to be and he's a guy who typically is a very solid cut maker. Does struggle a little bit with his putting from time to time, but he's a guy who is a cut maker with some real upside. I mean, this is a guy who's a top 20 player in the world when he's on his game. So I think he's going to be a really good play here this week. I think he'll be probably in that low 9 range. I've got him at about 9,300.
Oh, I would go mid to upper 9s, actually. I think 9,600 for skinny mid slash.
So you think they're going to just you think DraftKings? But in looking at the way they've priced it, there haven't been that many guys that they've priced.
So what are you saying? Mid duff is that? What'd you say?
It sounds 93? Like a wager. Got him at 9,300. Okay. Up from his 8,900 price range. But DraftKings has not had that many guys in the upper ranges. I think the other week they only had 22 or 23 guys over 8,000 for the whole week. So you think this week is going to be different where all the guys are going to be pushed up just due to the strength of the field?
I do. So I'll put him at 96. You say 93, and we'll bet nice filet dinner on it.
Oh, wow. Over a $300 price difference.
That's right.
But I get everything.
Not much variance in that at all.
No.
In the middle range, I'll list a few guys that I like. I like Martin Laird this week. He's an Arizona guy. He
lives in
Scottsdale. He's had some success at this tournament. David Lingmerth, I like this week as well.
Playing great, kind of under the radar. Still.
Ryan Moore has had a tremendous tournament history here. He hasn't played in a while.
Yeah.
But that could take some eyes off of him. I like him as well. And then Charles Howell III keeps making cuts, keeps turning out top 20.
What is his price this week, though? I mean, he's kicks out those top 20s, but can he sustain being in that mid-9? He was 9,400 last week. Is he going to stay up there, or is he going to get a little bit of a decrease just due to the strength of the field around him?
I think he's going to be high 8s this week.
That would be a nice bargain.
Yeah.
If he comes in at like 87, 8,800.
Oh, then I'm all over that.
Yeah, you love that for cash games. I think that would be a tremendous play. But I'll be real interested in seeing if his price is sustainable there. Had a few really nice finishes here. Not great, but he's been pretty solid here, as tends to be the case for most tournaments where you look at CH3. You're going to see a history where he's been around forever.
Yeah.
So he probably has 15 tournament appearances everywhere. He's usually made the cut in 12 or 13.
Never wins.
Couple top 10s here and there. So, always kind of an interesting play. I think going downwards, you covered quite a few of those guys.
Give me some sleepers. Who's in your low tier this week?
Well, I think you have to go to a guy who's disappointed us so far in this early part of the year, who's almost always good this time of year, Pat Perez.
Pat Perez.
He was right on the line last week.
People will have sworn off Pat Perez.
They will. He's disappointed him, but he just barely missed last week by one stroke. This tends to be a tournament he does real well on. Arizona
He's
guy.
An Arizona State guy.
As we talked about before, that's always a big positive. He's going to be looking to get back on track. He doesn't want to go home and embarrass himself by missing another cut.
No, I won't do him in cash games.
No, I can't.
But I will mix him in GPPs. I know what he's done, and oftentimes the key to GPP success is zigging when everyone else is zagging, and I think they're going to be off Perez.
People are going to be confused. They're not going to be sure if they're going to follow form or history on this one, so that should keep his ownership in a reasonable place.
Yep.
Another guy I like down here who doesn't have any tournament history here is Hudson Swafford.
Okay.
I liked him a lot last year. He burned me. It seemed like he had a pretty good season last year, but the 3 times that I wrote him up, cut. I mean, it was just kind of unbelievable the way that it happened. But around that, he had a lot of really strong finishes, and I thought the potential would be there for him to start posting some top 10s, and sure enough, has started to happen now. 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's posted top 10s. He's a guy who's starting to become more consistent making the cut, and I think he's still going to be reasonably cheap. He was 6,800 last week. In a field this strong, he's not going to jump up that high in salary. He's not going to be in the 8,000s this week. So I have it about 7,200 or so. I think he's a great buy. He's one that people aren't going to notice because he doesn't have that tournament history there, but his form is really good right now. Hits the ball a long ways off the tee. He putts pretty well, so I think that's a guy that you definitely need to be taking a look at.
Okay. I don't think you can go wrong with Siwoo Kim at this point. He's been playing awfully
Similar
well.
Story, yeah. Yep.
A couple other names that I'm liking this week. Sean O'Hare stands out to me as could have some success for GPPs.
He's another guy like Duffner where he had just a rough couple years, didn't play very well, but his game about the middle of last year kind of picked up and he started to have some solid finishes. You can sort of look at the last 2-3 years, brush those aside a little bit and go with, you know, more of what his current game has been over the last 7 or 8 months or so.
2 other bottom tier guys, just GPP, take a flyer on Ricky Barnes.
Aaron Badley.
You could do worse. Aaron Badley is another name, and Jason Kokrak.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting names depending on where the prices come from. I think all those guys are going to be in that upper 6 from 6,500 to 7,000.
Well, and KJ Choi.
Consistent. Yeah. Oh yeah. If he's at a very nice history here, not a lot of great finishes, no top tens, but
for where his
cuts.
Price is going to be too.
Yeah, I mean the guy he's made cuts here over and over again. So yeah, I think there's going to be plenty of guys that you can look at when you're building your GPP teams. So if you're going to build 50 or 100 teams, you've got a lot of different folks that you'll be able to work off of in those lower ranges. So I think that's probably more than enough in terms of sleepers. We gave away too much.
We gave away too much?
I think so.
I think you should still read the Daily Spin, which comes out on Wednesday morning. Zach does a really nice job on that, and people love that article. He gives away a lot of good information, strategy-wise, selection-wise, roster composition-wise. So that's high-quality stuff, so be sure to check out the Daily Spin. Hit us up on Twitter or email us anytime you like with any questions. We're real good about getting back to you. Whatever it is, our Twitter handle is @fantasygolfers. We're at info@fantasygolfinsider.com for your emails. Zach does Periscope on Wednesday nights.
Or Wednesday night.
Yep.
Wednesday night at 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock Central Time, so be sure to check out Periscope. He's happy to answer any questions there. I send out our last minute update email on Wednesday nights with any withdrawal information, any stomach bugs that are going around.
Anything weird that
weather
happens, which almost every week or two, something weird pops up that gets the whole community buzzing.
I've had a ton of good feedback on those emails because actually there's been key things that happened the last several weeks, and we've given out key information on those emails, which have helped out a lot of people. So I think that's all.
We made it through another one.
We did.
All right.
So
without the prices. I'm proud of you. Nice work.
Best of luck to all of you this week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good luck.
I didn't eat dinner, so I might get drunk.
Blooper. Yeah, half a cheese pizza left upstairs if you want.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.